Hi, welcome to UCLAN's Virtual Open Day. My name is Graham Calderbank. I'm the course leader for the Motorsport Engineering courses and have been for several years. I'm going to take you through this presentation to give you a flavour of what you'd be doing if you choose to join the course here in Preston. A quick overview of what we'll cover. What's Motorsport Engineering and why might you want to study that at UCLAN? Who are we and what are the projects that we're involved in? What facilities do we have? And what careers might you progress onto? And what do our students think of the course? So, motorsport engineering is specifically about the design, testing, building, and racing of motor vehicles across a range of motorsport categories. So, we're talking obviously Formula One is the big one, but there's plenty of other categories in motorsport: F2, F3, LMP, or whatever that's going to become, GT racing, touring cars, rally, all of those categories kind of are encompassed within this motorsport engineering classification. There are over 40,000 people working in motorsport, and a lot of the roles there are engineering related. I mean, the roles themselves, the work that you can be doing varies quite widely, even within the engineering sector. So, but we're specifically still talking about developing and making and designing race cars and running race cars. So, and components that go into race cars as well, because it's not just the teams that race them, there's a whole supply chain as well. Um, our courses prepare you for work in all of those different kinds of activities. So we try to incorporate plenty of design for sure. We do a lot of testing with the Formula Student car and with the Formula Ford cars. We also go racing with the Formula Fords. We compete at Formula Students and we build a Formula Student car every year to compete in that. So we're involved in all of those different types of activity to try to prepare you well for work in motorsport engineering, whatever sort of area specifically that you end up becoming interested in. So, for example, you'll be learning about engineering principles, you'll be learning CAD skills and software for simulating components under load, so that you can turn design projects around quickly, which is one of the big needs for the motorsport industry. Everything moves so quickly that you have to be able to solve problems in a short space of time. We're going testing with the Formula Student car, doing data acquisition with it to support that design work, and we're preparing race cars, Formula Ford race cars, for events such as the Walter Hayes Trophy. We have our very own Formula Ford team, and we've been successful over the course of the last 20 years with that. Both of the courses, both the BEng and the MEng, are accredited by the IMechE and the Institution of Engineering Designers. On the one hand, it provides you some assurance that our courses prepare you well for a career in industry, and it also provides the starting point of a structured route to chartered engineer status. The BEng comes under a partial accreditation. So with that one, you would have to conduct some further study as part of your route to chartered engineer status, whereas the MEng gives you all of the academic requirements, and so it's simply a case of building your experience following the course in order to get that chartered engineer status, and that's pretty standard across the sectors. So some courses are not accredited, so my advice would be to certainly choose one that is, and of those that are, it tends to be very much done in that way, where the BEng gives you most of the requirements and the MEng gives you all of them. The motorsport courses involve quite a lot of project-based learning. So in each year of the course, there is a group design project, which gives you the opportunity to really sort of embed your project management skills, your design processes. It enhances your creativity in solving problems, and you get to apply the technical knowledge that you learn in some of the lectures to solving real engineering problems. So we've got in first year, we have a project around the IMechE Design Challenge. And so you'll be in a group of, say, 3 students, and the brief will be to design a pipe climbing device or a trebuchet. And so you'll have to sort of incorporate the manufacturing techniques that you've learnt about, and some of the theoretical principles to solving those problems. If your device is successful, then you will compete against other universities in the region, and if you're successful there, which we have been in the past, then you'll go and compete against other universities around the country. In the second year, we run a project designing a rocket car, similar sort of thing, but it's a little bit more complex. And so you're sort of using computational fluid dynamics to design the bodywork. You're learning about composite manufacturing techniques to manufacture the bodywork. In the third year, we've got the Formula Student project, which is a very big project to develop our Formula Student car. So that involves numerous testing sessions. It'll involve a lot of design work, and then you'll be able to compete against other universities from around the world at the IMechE's Formula Student event at Silverstone. And then in the fourth year, if you're studying the MEng programme, then we've got another group project in that year. Currently, they're working on an electric kart and developing that, which in future we're hoping to embed some of that technology into the Formula Student car, which might well be when you're getting to that stage of the course. We've got superb engineering facilities. So we've got a new engineering innovation centre that opened last year, and in there we've got the motorsports lab with the Formula Ford cars, the Formula Student car and the Eco Marathon car. And students work in there preparing those race cars or developing the cars and doing their design work. We've got a CNC workshop in there with a brand new 5-axis milling machine, along with some of the other machines that we already had. As well as the Faro arm, which is great for quality assurance and for reverse engineering. So you can take a part and you can scan it, and then you've got a CAD model of that part. We've got an additive manufacturing suite for 3D printing, and then in addition to this new facilities, we've got our fabrication workshop with the bend press, and we've got the laser cutter, water jet cutter in there, and then we've got engine dynamometer testing and materials testing facilities, as well as the fluids lab in Harris building. We run numerous extracurricular activities, and as part of that, one of the big ones is our Formula Ford team, so you can take the first steps of your motorsport career. And we go racing, we compete properly in regional competitions or in national events such as the Walter Hayes Trophy, and we've won in our class at those events numerous times over the last 20 years. Or you could be part of the Shell Eco Marathon team. So we've had plenty of students as part of that go on trips to, they go to Rotterdam to take part in the Eco Marathon event there. And then, along with that, we've got regular trips and visits out from the university. The third years have been going to Germany for the last few years to visit BMW factories and Mercedes factories. And we've been to Haas to see their F1 facility, and a number of other trips that we've done too. So here are a couple of images. At the top, we've got our Van Diemen Formula Ford car racing at Oulton Park. We competed in the past in the Northern Formula Ford 1600 Championship, and last year in the Heritage Championship. We compete every year at the Walter Hayes Trophy as well. And as a student, being a part of the team, you would be working on setting up the car and preparing it for races. It's you doing the work and you with the responsibility. We have a member of staff who runs the team, and everybody else is the students, and then a driver who pays for the seat. So there's a real responsibility if you're part of that. At the bottom, we've got Andy with a couple of students in the CNC workshop. They're next to a milling machine, but in your first year, you would be in there learning how to work with those machines and learning about what the different manufacturing processes are. So who would be teaching you if you came to study motorsport at UCLan? Well, there's myself and Peter and Josh who cover most of the motorsport specific modules, like race car anatomy in the first year, motorsport mechanics in year 2, and the formula student modules in year 3. There are technician staff who also support the motorsport. Nick runs the Formula Ford team and is involved in Formula Student, so helps with running the test sessions with the car. And we've got Simon, who used to work at TVR. He's an engine designer, engine test expert, and he's heavily involved as well. We've got Boz, who used to work in aerospace, and he's really passionate about sharing his knowledge and experience that he's drawn from the aerospace industry over the last 30 years or so too. And then we've got a number of other teaching staff as well who deliver the modules like thermofluids and the maths and the science that you need to underpin engineering. As I've mentioned previously, there's a whole number of live projects that we're involved with. Formula Student, Shell Eco Marathon, I've mentioned those already. And we also do other projects with companies like Oaktech, who are near Lancaster. They're developing a low emission gas engine, and we've got projects that are running with those, either for undergraduate dissertation projects or also potentially as something you can progress towards. So we've just got a knowledge transfer partnership, and we're hoping to put a graduate onto that project. And we have some good industry links too. Ginetta and Simtrack over in Yorkshire. We have students going pretty much every year on placement, and they recruit or have recruited a number of students over the last sort of 10 years into graduate roles. McLaren likewise, we've got a really good link for placements with them. And again, sort of the last 4 years, I think we've had somebody, at least one person on placement with McLaren F1, as well as one at McLaren Automotive and one at McLaren Applied Technologies. And again, there's several students who are there following completion of the course. So here's an overview of the course structure. I'm not going to go through the whole lot. I will let you read that in your own time. But just looking at year 1, for example, we've got a module called Race Car Anatomy, and so this is kind of a leveler. It doesn't matter what your previous experience is, you'll be introduced to the systems and the components that you find on most modern race cars, what they're used for, how they're designed or how they're made, techniques for evaluating their performance. And it also covers much of the underlying scientific principles and analytical tools that are needed for later stages in the course. So, for example, you've got engineering analysis, maths and mechanics in short. Engineering design covers the process that you need to follow to successfully solve design problems, as well as introducing you to some of the skills that are needed as well. So the CAD is incorporated into that module. And then you've got engineering science, so that's where you've got the workshop activities, you've got some thermodynamics and fluid dynamics in there, and all of these things are needed, for designing various bits of race cars. As you move through the course, you'll see that there's always a motorsport thread in there, and certainly towards the end of the degree, that increases quite considerably as you start to specialise. And in the middle, you've got the option of a sandwich year, and I would highly recommend that you would do that. Most students who want to do it get to do that, and the employability statistics show that if you do a placement, you're much more likely to get a job that you want. And we've got almost a 100% graduate employment record for those who go on placement. A 3-year degree typically comprises of 360 credits. This is normally done across, say, 6 modules in a year, each one being 20 credits, and that equates to 200 hours of study, which comprises of a mix of maybe lectures, tutorials, practical sessions, and independent study. The timetabled contact time would be about a third of that, so say 60 hours. Whereas the rest will be independent study, and that might be reading or completing exercises that you've been provided, doing assignments, revising for exams. Assessment comes in a range of formats, normally 2 per 20 credit module, and that might be an exam, it might be an assignment that you work on, and a report that you submit to be assessed, or it might be a practical or a presentation. A whole range of assessment types that we use to develop different skills. As I've mentioned, you get the chance to go and do a placement year after your second year. And this is highly recommended because of the benefit it gives you later in the course and following the degree programme. The application and interview processes are supported by the academic staff as well as the careers service at the university. So this might be helping you to refine your CVs, it might be interview practice, or it might be a mock assessment centre day to prepare you for an assessment centre, which is commonly used these days, certainly by the bigger companies. A couple of examples of recent placements. We've got McLaren, who I've mentioned, and Ginetta. Also there are GPRM, who've had several students again over the last few years. They race GT. We've got a student at Mercedes High Performance Powertrains at the moment. We've had students again a number of times at Hewland Engineering, who make gearboxes for a range of single race car categories like German touring cars and Formula 3. And then we've got on the automotive side Nissan, Jaguar Land Rover and Alemco, who do gas engine conversions for vans and trucks. We've also been lucky enough to have a number of trips out to various companies and to have some guest lectures on campus as well. So here, a number of students at HAS F1. We went there and we had a tour of the facility, and students got to have a discussion with 4 of their engineers about their career paths and the work that they currently do, as well as then seeing some practice pit stops as well, which was pretty amazing. Here's a few students who we went on a Germany trip. We've been doing this for a few years with third year students off the motorsport and mechanical engineering programs. We visited the Mercedes factory. We visited a BMW plant in Munich, a technical museum which had Concorde that you could go up the fuselage, various other aircraft and cars and race cars. So we spent a good few hours there. This is at the Porsche Museum. And we also did quite a bit of sightseeing too. So we cram a lot into a few days, but it's a really beneficial trip. We actually pay for the students' accommodation and for a lot of the food as well. So it's a fairly cost-effective bit of travel from a student point of view. We went to Simtrack and Ginetta earlier this year. So students got to have a racing simulator experience. So that's Jack in the top right. He's in the car doing a lap of Donington. And then as part of this also, they were working with the staff looking at the data and doing some data analysis to see where they could improve their driving. And then we also had a tour of the Ginetta facility where we got to see the LMP1 car get fired up before it went off to America. And then this is Martin, who did his placement a couple of years ago now at McLaren Applied Technologies. So just to show you, like I say, we've got a pretty good link and it's a fairly amazing place to go and work. So, hopefully you'll get the chance to do that. But McLaren have been on campus for the last couple of years as well, come to Preston and present to students the details of their placement schemes and how to apply, as well as bring in components with them and providing some inspiration. Here are some quotes from a few of our students. We've got John Chapman, who's just completed his BEng year. Sam, who's finished third year, he's moving into year 4 next time. And Sarah and Jack, who have just completed third year, so they're graduating as well. Again, I'll not read these out to you. I'll let you read those in your own time. And also, if you click Jack or John's names, it will take you to the case studies with more details on the website. And in terms of your career following university, I've got a couple of case studies. Again, these are on the website. You can get to those by clicking the photos. Austin and Craig both graduated in 2012, which might seem like some time ago, but they've got really interesting career paths that take them from, say, F3 into what was GP2 and now F2, and then into Formula One. So Craig, for example, was at Williams and now he's at Haas. Austin at Mercedes. There's more recent examples as well. I mean, Alex, who again, there's a video on the website of him when he finished at Preston. He worked at Tata on their automotive projects for a couple of years, and now he's at Red Bull. But they're really interesting. So have a look at those as well. Some of the finer details: fees, fairly typical, and entry requirements 104 to 112 UCAS points, whether that be from a BTEC or from A levels or another equivalent. We've also got a range of scholarships and bursaries that might be available to support you through your studies. So it's worth having a look at that as well. Again, that's I've provided a hyperlink, so it'll take you to the appropriate web page